Welcome to the deep dive. Technology, it's just everywhere, isn't it? It runs our mornings, how we get our news. It's woven into pretty much everything we do.
Yeah.
And we think we know what our computers are doing, right? But what if they're actually doing way more in ways that maybe directly affect you without you even realizing?
That's a really good point. And today, yeah, we're taking that deep dive into artificialintelligence.ai. We wanted to sort of unpack what AI actually is, how it's moving beyond just data processing, as we might traditionally think of it, and explore its impact, which is, well, pretty significant, especially in areas like the cultural industries. We'll look at how AI is already creating content, things like music, even whole podcasts, believe it or not, and what that could mean for human roles, maybe even ours.
Exactly. So our mission for you listening right now is to help cut through all the jargon. We want you to get a handle on the practical applications of AI that exist now. And maybe start thinking about the bigger questions this stuff raises, about our relationship with machines and, well, the future of human creativity itself. Communication. Get ready for maybe a few aha moments. So, okay, let's start there. When we say artificial intelligence, what are we really talking about that's different from just, regular computing?
Right. Well, it's interesting because, yes, you can see AI as a kind of advanced data processing, but the key is understanding how it's advanced. See, traditional programming, it follows very strict rules set by humans, right?
Right.
Step A, step B, step C. AI, particularly with machine learning, it's different. It allows systems to actually learn from data. They spot complex patterns, make predictions, and crucially, they can improve their own performance over time without someone having to explicitly reprogram every little change. It's about self-correction, continuous learning.
Okay, so it's not just following orders, it's adapting, learning on the fly almost.
Yeah.
Which brings us to this really fascinating idea. You mentioned machines that know what other machines are doing. How does that actually work, that sort of real-time chat between AIs?
Yeah, and if you connect that to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
you see huge amounts of money, right? Capital being poured into these sophisticated AI networks by major players. These aren't just standalone systems. They're designed to exchange data, collaborate algorithmically in real time. So one AI's analysis or output feeds directly into another AI's input. And this creates incredibly rapid autonomous decision-making. Think about, say, the financial markets. That's a prime example. Algorithmic trading.
Right, the high-frequency trading stuff.
Exactly. Driven by AIs talking to each other, reacting to tiny data shifts, predicting market movements sometimes faster than any human possibly could.
Wow, that's quite a departure from relying on, someone's years of experience or gut feeling. Does it mean we're sort of pushing the human brain and that kind of intuition aside?
Yeah.
Is there a risk of sidelining human expertise altogether?
Well, it definitely raises big questions about where humans fit in, doesn't it? I mean, AI offers this incredible speed and processing power, no doubt. But let's call it wisdom, or maybe the nuanced judgment, that often still comes from human understanding, from context that maybe the AI doesn't grasp. So it's probably more about finding the right balance, using AI for its strengths, its efficiency, but still valuing those human insights. It's maybe less about replacement and more about redefining roles.
Okay, that makes sense, a redefinition. Let's pivot slightly then to where AI's impact feels maybe even more direct for a lot of us. Culture, the creative industries, we hear about AI generating content.
Yeah.
Can you unpack what generative AI actually means here? How's it changing things like writing, music, art?
Absolutely. So generative AI, essentially, it refers to systems that can create completely new content, stuff that didn't exist before: text, audio, images, even video. And they do this by learning patterns from enormous data sets of existing examples. It's powered by things like natural language processing, deep learning, getting really sophisticated now. So it's not just understanding language, it's producing human-like language, or sound, or images.
So wait, an AI could literally write a story
Yeah.
or compose music
Wow.
or, like you mentioned, produce an entire podcast. That seems incredible. How does that actually play out in something like broadcasting, where, the human element, the interaction feels so central?
Well, it's not hypothetical. It's already happening. Take podcasts, for instance. I saw these press releases not long ago from a big educational conference, and they linked to a podcast discussing their own information, but the whole thing was generated by an AI. The system simulated a conversation. Two distinct voices sounded kind of male and female, making specific points, even seeming to respond to each other pretty seamlessly.
Huh. And the quality? Did it sound, natural? Or could you tell it was a machine straight away?
Well, this is the fascinating part. What stood out was how reliable and consistent it was. These AI voices are incredibly disciplined. They don't stumble, they don't interrupt each other, the pacing is spot on, the information is delivered really clearly.
Okay.
Now, maybe they lack the quirks, the unexpected turns of phrase, the little imperfections that make a human voice unique. But the output is highly reliable, polished even. And it makes you think, doesn't it? If machines can produce content that's so continuous and disciplined, what's the unique human skill we bring, say, in a live conversation or broadcast?
That's a really interesting point. Because, yeah, so much of what we do is adapt on the fly, inject personality, maybe smooth over an awkward pause, or, fill in if something unexpected happens. What if?
Yeah.
Just thinking out loud here.
Yeah.
What if an AI system could be built to handle exactly those kinds of real-time needs, to fill those gaps?
That's a really intriguing idea, actually. It points towards AI in workflow automation for media. Imagine an AI trained on just a massive archive of relevant material, past shows, articles, data. If there's suddenly dead air or a technical glitch or just a need for smooth continuity, this AI could potentially just leap into action. It could draw on its knowledge base to generate, relevant commentary, maybe a transition, something to keep things flowing. Essentially a very smart, always ready backup.
Right. So AI is a sort of safety net,
Hmm.
a sophisticated support system ensuring the listener gets a seamless experience. Even if the humans hit a snag for a second, it feels like the potential in media production goes way beyond just creating the initial content. It's also about operational stuff, keeping things running smoothly.
Exactly. It's about building resilience, adaptability into the system. I mean, right now we're seeing AI generate content, maybe fill in gaps, but looking ahead, you could imagine AI becoming even more deeply embedded, assisting with research perhaps, suggesting discussion topics, maybe even personalizing the content feed for each listener in real time. The direction seems to be towards AI not just performing tasks, but sort of anticipating needs and collaborating with humans in much more complex ways. It's the next thing down the path, really.
So wrapping up our deep dive today,
Hmm.
we've looked at AI not just as this, advanced data processing thing, but really as something dynamic. It's evolving through machine learning, through these real-time chats between algorithms, and it's influencing everything from, well, global stock markets right down to the shows and music we consume daily.
Yeah, and we touched on generative AI, how it's now capable of creating art, music, even entire podcasts with these very disciplined, very reliable machine voices, which definitely makes you question our traditional ideas about creativity and, well, where humans fit in the cultural landscape.
And we also considered AI's potential role as this kind of background support, this reassuring backup system, always ready to leap into action and keep things going smoothly, even when we're not there or we stumble.
Right. And you've heard how AI can simulate conversations, generate whole shows, fill in the gaps seamlessly. Which brings us to a really important question, maybe for you to think about. If machines are getting so good at doing all these creative and communicative things, what is it that's truly unique? What's the irreplaceable human element? What kind of insights, what stories, what conversations can only come from, well, Uncle Bert and his amazing brain, as it were, from genuine human experience, emotion, nuance? And how do we make sure that continues to thrive as algorithms shape more of our world?
It's a big question. We really encourage you to reflect on your own relationship with technology, that phone in your pocket, used for the right purpose, the content you choose to engage with. Think about what you value most in human connection and creativity, especially as AI continues its next steps down the path. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive.